Want to trade with Rithika? Join Chase at www.laductrading.com/chase.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had a great week. So as you can see here, we pretty much broke this support area last week. If you go to the 4-hour chart for a much larger picture, you can see that we ended up having an oversold bounce into that 5700 region. You can see this kind of formed into this previous resistance level, and we rejected that. And you can see since the tariff news, we've been straight down. So if you go to the weekly chart in the market, you can see that this top of the channel that held us resistance, we couldn't break above. So the minute we broke down in the 5900 level, we came down to support, and we tried to hold that support, try to form a base. Tariff news pretty much sent us down since then. So I mean, you can see here, the minute we broke this important level of support, we came down into this 5100. We couldn't hold that. Now we're down in the next level of support, and we are trying to have an oversold bounce. But I do think that any bounce that we have will get rejected, and we will go lower into this 4700, which you can see is the bottom of this channel. So ideally, I would rather buy the low at 4700 than try to chase the low here. So based on that, even on QQ, though can have a bounce, I do think that we could see a much lower level. Again, you can see on VIX that we haven't even broken the previous high. So this digestion could again break higher before it comes down. So based on the fact that I am kind of looking for this bounce to fail, we can kind of look at this week's watch list. And the first one I have is Futu. And again, you can see here we couldn't break above the previous high. So, I mean, this is more like a short-term chase. I do think that if we reject this 82-80 area again, we will very likely come back down into this 66 region before we bounce higher. So I do think that we will stay sideways in China. Probably, you can see here, we 5-5 this level. On Futu, you can see that we rejected the 0.618 fib, which is known as the golden fib. So that generally tends to result in sell-off. So that's the reason I believe that we stay below 80, we'll come down to 77, 72, and possibly even 62. So I have Futu on this week's watch list. The next one I have is Costco. And again, this hasn't sold off as much compared to the rest of the market. Let's go to the weekly chart. You can see that we were at the top of the channel. We sold off. We had an oversold bounce, and now we're trying to sell off again. So I do think that this has a little bit more room than the rest of the stock. So if I were to look at a weaker market, I would say if we break 900, 905 on Costco, we will at least come down into that 880, 890, 880 area. So another short-term chase. And if we were, given that we are pretty oversold, it's here. It's pretty much what I was watching. And I do think that we will pretty much come down, finish off this ABC pattern in Costco. You can see here that would come up to about 862. The wave 3 and the wave 4 would come about 862. So that's what I'm looking at in Costco. I think it could have further weakness in the market. You can see here, if I drew the bottom of the channel as well, that we rejected the top of the channel. We're selling off. So that's the reason I think Costco has a lot more room to the downside. And last but not the least, Apple, though I'm not convinced that the market is looking bullish. You can see here that we are opening at the bottom of this channel from 2020. So that's a very significant channel, and that could serve as the bottom, has served as the bottom for the past 4 years. So you can expect us to try to break the channel, but I do think that this will hold at least maybe 174 we break, right? 174, 175 could hold for a much higher bounce to the upside. So it's the reason I have Apple. If we can get above that, I would say that 183, 184 area, we could have a push into 200 before we come lower. So potentially could bounce, but I could also see us try to move lower before it has that bounce also. But yeah, keep an eye. Apple is on a significant support. You look at some of the more technical indicators like the dollar. I did mention that I did think that we're going to break the previous low. You can see that we did sell off, have an oversold bounce, but again, I am expecting us to reject this bounce and continue into the 199 area. You look at the yields as well. You can see that we have broken down into the channel. So if you think of that from that perspective, that oversold bounce on yields could lead to an oversold bounce on the markets, but that's again going to come down to bounce again. So I mean, the market is looking weak. I don't want to really make any predictions. It's just all we can do is look level to level, and you look at SPX as well, and you can see this is a channel I've drawn from 2009. So we would ideally come down. The bottom of the channel would be around 4900 area. So ideally, that's where I would kind of look for a more sustainable bounce. So let's see. We ideally 4700, 4900 could yield a bounce. So let's see what we do around there. That's all I have for this week. Oh, hope you have a great day.
Join Chase to trade with Rithika and other experts. Subscribe to LaDuc Trading YouTube channel for more Wolf's weekly wave list videos and other content.